time. Next up, we have the professor from American Studies. We have David Stannard.
Thank you, Theo. And thank you, Shauna, for saving me from having to follow John Wendell. I've been a professor in the Manoa American Studies Department for more than 30 years. I may take, therefore, a little longer than the other speakers today, but Theo says he'll cut me some senior citizen slack. While we're speaking here today, the UH faculty, as you may have heard, is finishing up its preliminary, and I stress preliminary, voting for or against a new contract. For students and the general public, the details of that contract don't really matter very much. But one clause in the contract is very important to all of you and to everyone who lives in Hawaii. It's called the retrenchment clause. What retrenchment means, to quote the closest thing to an official definition, is if, and only if, an imminent financial crisis threatens the survival of an educational institution, it may be permissible to discontinue a program or department, but only with the full participation and agreement of the overall faculty. In contrast, the UH administration is now attempting to force upon the faculty a contract allowing the administration, solely upon its own discretion, to shut down entire departments without any evidence that we're actually in the midst of a financial crisis that threatens the survival of the university. If retrenchment under these terms were to occur, the university would be censured by the American Association of University Professors, which would then advise faculty all across the United States to avoid taking jobs at UH. And if retrenchment under any terms were to occur, students would lose their majors and all the work they put into them, while others would find so many classes canceled and others overcrowded that graduation would have to be postponed indefinitely. That's the good news. The bad news is that others would simply drop out of the university altogether, their plans for the future destroyed. In fact, Manoa already has one of the poorest graduation rates in the country. But under retrenchment, it will grow much worse. Last spring, a panel of outside experts visited Manoa to evaluate the College of Social Sciences. It was made up of top administrators from the University of Arizona, the University of Washington, the University of Minnesota, and the University of Wisconsin, supposedly comparable institutions to UH. In the introduction to their 55-page report, following months of study, these experts went out of their way to students, writing that they were, faculty and students, I quote, tremendously impressed with the quality of the faculty and staff, the quality of the research, the quality of the academic programs, and the quality of the students. Well then, what about that abysmal graduation rate then? It turns out it's caused by an absence of state financial support and a lack of administration concern for, and I quote, the huge financial burden placed on students at UH. In fact, the panel wrote, the poor graduation rate is only one of several very disturbing symptoms of a grossly underfunded and poorly administered university, including, I'm quoting again, a lack of effective campus and university leadership on many fronts, including research, undergraduate education, curriculum, advising, facilities, technology, fundraising, and more. The students and the faculty are fine, these experts said. Sorry, I lost my place. Some of the words they used to describe you were engaging, interesting, articulate, dedicated, outstanding. It's not you, it's not the faculty, it's the administration that's the problem. And this is the same administration that now proposes to use its sole and flawed judgment to fire faculty and close down entire departments. It's a truism today that without a good research university, a state is guaranteed to become a cultural and economic backwater. At present, 2/3 of Hawaii students who attend college attend UH. That number has gone up this semester, in large part because more families than ever cannot afford out-of-state tuitions. But once the economy recovers, those families will take another look at things. And what they will find in the aftermath of retrenchment is a research university that has been devastated by administrative recklessness. Post-retrenchment, Manoa will become a campus avoided by students with any money at all and by professors with any options at all. To make the economic crisis that by the UH administration's complicity in political scheming and cowardice, scheming by the governor, cowardice by the legislature. Let me give you an example. Just one example, then I'll wrap things up. Stanford University is one of the wealthiest universities anywhere. But during the past year, it was damaged, like everyone else, by the worldwide economic crisis. Stanford, however, cares about its reputation and cares about its students. So last week, Stanford announced that it planned to sell so-called illiquid investments in order to raise $1 billion in cash. By coincidence, the state of Hawaii, is it doing what Stanford is doing? No! No, absolutely not. I'll let the Budget and Finance Director of the state explain why not in her own words. Quote, "The reason why we're not selling the securities at this time," she said last month, "is that the state doesn't need the liquidity or the cash." She went on, "The state doesn't have any need or use for the funds," unquote. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm not an economist, but then neither is the State Budget and Finance Director. In fact, the State Budget and Finance Director's highest academic degree is an AA from Maui Community College, although she's a good, longtime friend of the governor. So I'll go along with Stanford and its half-dozen or so Nobel Prize winners in economics. Stanford that is selling those investments in order to care for the needs of its students, and not with the state of Hawaii that is hoarding its money in a political effort to bust public worker unions while turning children away from elementary schools and dismantling the only research university in the state. Meanwhile, the Democratic state legislature that has the power to fix much of this with a simple temporary increase in the state excise tax cringes quietly in a corner, paralyzed by an irrational fear of impotent Republican voters. That only leaves us. This is a public university. It belongs to everyone. We must take it back. Thank you.
All right. David Stannard. Okay, how's everybody doing? Good? Good? Better? After these speakers, we're going to have an open mic, so you get your questions ready and then come up here soon. So next up we have